Hi everybody and welcome. My name's Stuart Haden, founder of Storm Beach, specialising in authentic leadership, working as a coach, consultant, facilitator, speaker and author of this book. Here, it's not about the coach. And I'm here today to talk about goals, which is chapter number 7 of 9. And this fits in the final section of the book, which is around performance. So this is about the coachee really hitting their stride now in terms of performing better, improve differently, etc., based on, well, really the focus of this session is about goals. And goals have to focus at the start of coaching, certainly, but really I position them more towards the end of coaching. So for me, a great coachee will walk away from the coaching really knowing what their goals are, a bit more refined, a bit more precise than perhaps they were at the start of the program or relationship or season or project or wherever they might be. Okay? So I'm going to read a little bit, and I'm going to read a bit again later on and share with you somebody I was coaching, and I just thought, demonstrated great coaching ability, great coachability, great coachee. One of the finest exhibitions of developing coachability that I was privileged enough to be part of with Steve and Sarah. They were planning to climb Everest in aid of UNICEF. Goals don't come much bigger. As a keen, if somewhat amateur mountaineer, I've always been fascinated by Everest and how I might contribute to a successful expedition. I began researching planned expeditions for the following year to offer my services for free. Within days, I was in touch with Sarah to agree the way forward. Being coached had actually been part of the original plan, but had been scrapped due to the lack of budget. Steve, in particular, personified accountability. He was making the rapid shift from coachee to coach. Rapid by his standards, given that when we first started talking, he wasn't particularly au fait with the coaching world. Yet he had a raw talent in abundance. In turn, he proved to me that he was definitely coachable, a value that certainly served him on his expedition. He would expect only the best coaching from me, and this drove my practice skywards. He would gently analyse the content of our conversations, yet remain open to the application. Towards the end of our last 3 sessions, I asked Steve to participate in quantum exercises, ones that would embed the learning by applying the natural laws of energy. I slowly picked up that he was using these very same exercises in the 7 days between our conversations with a colleague at work. For me, that's what a great coachee does. They have these goals, and it doesn't physically come much bigger than Everest, certainly in terms of mountain terms. And working with that goal was just being refined and developed and more precise as Steve and Sarah were, moving through in the sort of 10-week or so that I worked with them. And what a good coachee does also is they take that goal, so we're working with his goal, but he was taking it to someone else, and it was a very, very different situation. It was somebody at work who really needed some support. So it had nothing to do with physical expeditions or anything like that. The goal was completely different. But Steve recognised that and applied his initially coachee skills, and then later on his coaching skills to work with that individual. And for me, demonstrated great application of what we were all about. So if that's goals, let me just finish off the story about Steve and Sarah. The dangerous conditions on the Khumbu Icefall and on the Lhotse face forced the team to abandon its expeditions to Everest, Lhotse and Nuptse for the entire season. However, Sarah and Steve had received somber news a few months beforehand when they failed to raise enough funds for the trip. As coachees, they remained accountable, bringing a smile to my face, they have a new goal and new energy. To become qualified coaches, they are at the foot of another mountain. So they had 2 goals. One was to raise the money, which frankly sounded far more challenging than the climb itself, and they didn't hit the required targets. It was unfortunately pretty much crunched by the recession in my view, and if they had raised enough funds, as you heard anyway, the expeditions got cancelled due to bad weather. So for me, the goal isn't necessarily getting on that summit and coming back down and everything else. It's about, they climbed Everest in my view, and I coached them to climb Everest. The fact that they didn't have enough money, didn't go, doesn't matter. They still went on a journey, and a very different journey. But it's remarkable for me now that their journey is about becoming coaches and looking at how they can bring that into their own work and perhaps setting up their own business. I think it's just a great concept, and the great coachee starts as coachee, has those goals, and ends up being a coach, and you can't not do that. It just happens by osmosis. So just be aware of that. Fine-tune, form your goals towards the end of the process, but also remember you're on that journey from coachee to coach. And keep an eye on that. That might not happen for years, but it might be months away for you depending on where your priorities sit.